One, start. Good day, everybody. Before we start the Talawanda School District Board meeting, which is our first virtual meeting, I wanted to go over some areas that you might have questions about. The first area will be the Pledge of the Allegiance. Since we're doing this virtually, if we, as the board, all get and say the pledge at the same time, you may hear sound echoes, and it'll be hard to understand. So therefore, President Otto is going to lead the Pledge of the Allegiance, and we're going to mute the rest of the board members so that way it is not echoed. Secondly, public session. If you would like to participate in public session today, first of all, I'm just going to go over some reminders. You must be a resident, you must state your name and address, and it must be 3 minutes or less, and you must follow appropriate language which is outlined in our policy and our social media guidelines. At the bottom of your screen, locate the chat box. You will be able to type in your comments starting now all the way through public session. Each chat box will only hold 250 characters. You might need 2 or 3 chat boxes to be completed. You can even type up what you want written on like a Microsoft Word, and you can copy and paste it into those chat boxes. A moderator, which will be a Talawanda School District staff member, will then read your comments. Remember, this is not a discussion. You may type and copy and paste into the chat boxes, and it is only available starting when the meeting starts through the end of public session. Once public session ends, you will no longer be allowed to enter comments that will be posted or read during the public session. We will also follow the governor's recommendations and requirements, so things will change as they release and allow us possibly to let people come back into the auditorium and release the stay-at-home orders. Right now, we can't have anybody come to the high school to view the board meetings because that would be a violation of the stay-at-home orders. We need to make sure that people understand this. I also made a video today, and there are written directions on how to access these videos, which you can do it live right now, or you can do it at some other time, when you get home from work tomorrow, another day, whenever you want, and we will have these posted. It's very important for all of us to stay safe and healthy. With that, we are now going to start the board meeting, and welcome.
I'm going to call this meeting to order. I'll begin with the roll. Dr. Knight Abowitz.
Here.
Dr. Howard.
Here.
Mr. Mead.
Here.
Dr. Roberts.
Present.
All present. This meeting is now called to order. First order of business is to appoint Shauna Tafowski as the interim treasurer. Can I have a motion to recommend that Shauna be appointed as the interim treasurer for the remainder of the 2019 school year, effective April 1st, 2020 through July 31st, 2020? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Howard. Is there any discussion? No discussion. Ms. Tafowski, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes.
Dr. Knight Abowitz?
Yes.
Motion carried.
It is recommended that the board approve the agenda as presented, but we also need to do the moment of silence.
Oh, excuse me.
Mr. Otto, you're muted.
My apologies. The Talawanda family has lost a loved and valued member. Talawanda's chief financial officer recently and unexpectedly passed away. Mike was a very important part of the district and of the greater Oxford community. At this time, I'd like to observe a period of silence in memory of Mike. During this time, let's reflect on any memories of Mike we may have. Let's begin. Thank you all. Mike will be greatly missed. Now I'd like to ask the board members, Dr. Thoreau and Ms. Stafowski, if they would like to share any of their thoughts about Mike. Dr. Roberts, would you like to go first, please?
Thank you. Mike was an outstanding financial professional, but even more important to me was his friendship. I'm going to read a poem written by Maya Angelou called The Miracle of Friendship. A miracle called friendship dwells within the heart. You don't know how it happens or when it actually gets its start, but the happiness it brings you always gives a special lift. Then you realize that friendship is one of God's most precious gifts.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts. Is anyone else?
You know, the passing of Mike is a tremendous loss for the Talawanda School District and the Oxford community, who was so involved in our community. And when you think about the work Mike did in the district, he guided us through so many things, including all the building projects that have gone on, you know, the last 10 to 12 years. And really, Mike has left us in pretty good financial shape. I'm so sorry about that. Mike has left us in pretty good financial shape as we go into this time of the pandemic, which is going to create a lot of financial hardship and things. And he gets credit for where we are as we face this. But I admire Mike really for the way he talked about his family. The first 2 years I was on the board, I sat next to Mike. And before meetings, we would sit and talk, and a lot of what he talked about was his family and his exercising, two of his favorite things. And I know we talked about taking care of fathers, we talked about children, and he was so proud of his sons. We talked about Crystal, because I had worked with Crystal at the high school. And I know more than a financial officer, Mike was a family man, and I admired him for that. And I know we talked about Crystal retiring and him thinking about retirement. And he did admit that when his grandchild came, that was a game changer about what he was thinking. And I just know how much his family will miss him, and my heart and thoughts go out to them.
I'd like to just offer, I'd like to thank Dr. Roberts for that beautiful poem, and offer my condolences to her as well as the family of Mike Davis. I did not work for Mr. Davis very long, but I was really impressed with his knowledge about his work and his ability to explain complicated budget issues to me as a new board member. He really helped Becky and I, Dr. Howard and I, get up to speed and answered questions with so much professionalism, And as Mr. Mead points out, the capital improvements during his tenure really leave behind a great legacy for him and his family. So just offer my condolences and my appreciation for his service over the years to the district.
Yeah, I'd like to echo what others have said. My heart has been very heavy with this news for some time. I regret that I didn't get more time to get to know Mike better. I deeply, deeply appreciated having the turn this year that Pat had previously of sitting next to him at board meetings. And I deeply, deeply appreciated at my very first board meeting that chat, just that chatting before the meeting. He made me feel very welcome. And that gave me a lot more confidence coming into the meeting. And every interaction I had with him was very professional and very welcoming and informative and kind. And I appreciated that kindness very much. He will be missed.
I would like to say thank you to Mike. He definitely was a family man, a community man, and he definitely put the Talawanda School District in a great place, not only financially, but through leadership and guidance, and in building up other staff members so that they could be the best that they could be within their job. There are so many changes that have happened at Talawanda School District due to his 12 years here within the Talawanda School District that is positive. With that, I echo, just like Dr. Howard said, all of these sentiments, but it's really now about giving my prayers and thoughts to Crystal, his son, his 3 sons, their grandchild, and all the family, friends, and loved ones from Mike Davis. This is such a difficult time for them, and I just want to let you know that you are in our thoughts, our prayers, and our hearts. And we want to let you know that Mike Davis made a positive difference within the Talawanda School District as well as the community, and we definitely know as a family man too. So thank you, Mike Davis, for all of your work. You will be missed.
I want to echo what everyone else. We need to mute. I want to echo everything that all the previous people have said before me. I've known Mike for over 13 years now. He has been a colleague, a mentor, a neighbor, and most importantly, a friend. My heart goes out to his family, his friends. There are no words. I'm just, my thoughts and prayers for Crystal and the boys.
Thank you for sharing. Others have already mentioned many of the things that I have thought about Mike, so I'll keep my remarks short. Mike was a family man who loved his wife, who often spoke proudly of his sons, and who was excited to be a new grandfather. He was also a man of faith. Mike was a person who enjoyed life, who loved to laugh, and was fun to be with, even at a school board meeting. We will miss Mike, but he will always be with us in spirit. In the future, we'll be contacting Mike's family to schedule a time when the community can get together to remember Mike and to recognize all he's done for our district. But in the meantime, please keep Crystal, Mike's 3 sons, and the rest of the family in your thoughts. Thank you. That concludes our moment of silence. I think Mike would be happy if we kept going on. So for the next minute, I'm kind of emotional right now. Dr. Thoreau, do you have a recommendation for the board about the agenda?
It is recommended that the board approve the agenda as presented, please.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Mead. Do I have a second?
Second.
No discussion. Mr. Fausti, would you please call the
I was
roll?
putting I was unmuting. It's a little slow on the. Dr. Howard,
Yes.
Mr. Mead,
Yes.
Mr. Otto,
Yes.
Dr. Roberts,
Yes.
Dr. Knight Edwards.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Right now, we'd like to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Resolutions and presentations.
Yes, I'm going to invite Director Greg to give a first reading of the world language, Talawanda High School and Talawanda Middle School Social Studies. And I'm also going to invite Director Jones with the preschool curriculum adoptions. This is the first reading.
Hello, thank you. I sent all the presentation slides to the board members earlier this week, and I wanted to apologize for the slew of emails that you received yesterday. Some of those slides weren't shared appropriately, so hopefully you all have had a chance to kind of look through those slides and the budget summaries as well. So I did send a follow-up email to you just kind of outlining how this process goes for those board members that are new. This will be the first reading, so we would like feedback in regards to the curriculum that is being purchased, the technology, the resources, any of the materials that our department heads for social studies and world language have kind of worked through. So we met with Curriculum Council virtually, and they were able to look at all the presentations as well. So I'm really not in sake of time, because there are 4, including preschool presentations that were sent to you. These were also posted on the board docs agenda as well. The world language adoption will be for high school as well as middle school, because our middle school does offer Spanish and world cultures in middle school. So they typically have a budget around $100,000, and they're just under that currently with the curriculum adoption that you see in the slides. And then the remaining couple $1,000 they'd like to kind of earmark for student apps and things that they would use in their class in regards to technology and getting kids involved through GimKit and other pieces of technology that way. As far as high school social studies goes, they previously have been using TCI for the most part, but now they have wanted to switch gears a little bit to really take a deeper dive in the updated standards, because social studies did update their standards in the past couple of years. And so our curriculum adoption cycle is every 6 years. And so they felt like it was beneficial for them to take a look at what resources would support the newer standards in social studies. I apologize, my dog's barking. So when you take a look at those slides, they kind of break down textbooks, video resources, classroom supplies, newspapers for current events. That would include online current events, and that puts them, I think roughly looks like about $120,000 for them. And then the middle school currently uses TCI, and they will continue to use TCI. But just as the high school has looked at updating materials because standards have changed. TCI has also changed. And so some of that takes a little time and material to get that all updated. When you look through the middle school social studies adoption, you will see that they have asked for some bigger technology types of items, clever touches, some Blu-ray DVDs to support a lot of their videos that they show. And then also you'll see that some of our social studies teachers have visited Middletown Middle School, and we're really interested in the collaborative classrooms that they are offering their middle school students, and the collaboration of just different types of furniture that they can use in the classroom to create and foster a little bit more of group work, desks and tables that can kind of move and slide apart. So they also put that in their adoption. And when you look at their budget summary, hopefully you were able to pull that up. It looks like they are right around $133,000. In the email that I sent earlier today, they have about $320,000 that is used for social studies adoption. This doesn't include elementary, because elementary folks are staying with what they have, but they're looking for materials and resources that will support the reading and writing and standards that they're doing in their classroom. So they don't want to adopt a textbook. They'd rather look at resources that would combine with reading, writing. 4th and 5th grade will kind of stick with some TCI. But again, they're revamping some of those newer standards. I know that Stephanie is going to talk a little bit about preschool, but as you know, preschool, we are taking on preschool for next school year, and that would also include an adoption, a curriculum adoption for preschool as well. And so when we look through the different types of preschool curriculum adoptions, the creative curriculum is a curriculum that's used by a lot of preschools. It's very vetted, and it has anything from the social emotional piece to the science and technology piece, and that will be right around $8,800. So I guess at this time I would ask for feedback, any clarification that you have, anything that I can take back to department heads in order to get this moving to May and approved. We welcome any feedback that you have, and I will work with my department heads to make sure that we get this on the right path.
Is there any questions from the board?
Thank you, Lindsay. I really appreciate your presentation. And now I have a little more information, so I may be sending in a question or two, but thank you so much for a very nice presentation.
You're welcome.
Lindsay, thank you for all of the information, which I've really enjoyed looking over. This is my first round of a curriculum materials process as a board member, so I sent you a lot of questions, and I appreciate all your responsiveness. Can you tell me, is this, so this happens every 6 years, and can you tell me, is it typical that one of these requests has all kinds of materials in it, textbooks, supplemental materials, and furniture and soft and hardware? Like, is this a typical kind of request?
It is. So, I will say exactly what you said to begin with. This is my first go around with this as well. I've been on the side as a teacher. I've been on this side as a principal, but this is my first go around as the director of curriculum. And so what a lot of times what I do is they will send their requests and presentations to me, and they've probably worked on this for the past 6 months of the school year. We have revamped things. We've taken things off. it is not uncommon for curriculum adoptions to ask for technology that supports resources in the classroom in regards to how they're teaching standards. It's not uncommon either for curriculum adoptions to also include furniture if there's any type of research-based information that goes into that in regards to how students learn. So all of those things, yes, can go into curriculum adoptions. We've worked through them. I've asked them to cut back on some technology things, believe it or not. Some of them were a little bit more heavy than even what you see with some technology. So I've asked them to pare back a little bit on that too, but we can certainly relook and examine some things. And if you have questions and it's not appropriate to do that here, or if you just want to talk with me via email or phone call, we can certainly talk about that before the main meeting as well.
May I just say that with curriculum adoptions, our standards often change. So I want to give kudos to Director Gregg and Director Jones for leading us on this path to have these new curriculums up. They did include some furniture, especially at the middle school. We have not put in new middle school furniture in a very long time. So their furniture is up. So by combining the furniture in with the curriculum adoption and staying within budget, that is a good process to have. And as standards change and as world events change, the curriculum changes. So a 6-year cycle is very consistent with not only Ohio, but within the United States.
Lindsay, I really appreciate all of the information, and I really appreciate hearing that you kind of ask them to pull back a little bit on technology. I think one of the delicate balancing acts that we have to do, not just in a curricular sense, but in a financial sense, is be up to date with our technology, make sure we've got the tools that are going to move our students forward on that dimension, but not get so overwhelmed with technology that we lose sight of the learning and that human interaction that takes place. So it makes me feel really confident that you had that conversation with them and are finding that balance with appropriate technology. So thank you.
You're welcome. A lot of our curriculum that's purchased, whether it's social studies, world language, math, science, a lot of them have a technology-based platform that accompanies. So there's subscriptions for that. So what we like to do is be able to buy those subscriptions and not buy 250 textbooks. So if you would, if you go back to those presentations or those slides in a lot of those world language or social studies presentations, you'll see that they're asking for class sets of things instead of asking for, a ton of textbooks, because it's important for kids to, access these materials online like we're doing right now, which is such a crazy time for us. But I'm confident that even moving forward, our kids will continue to access the technology materials as well as the paper materials they need for classroom.
When you buy an online version of a curriculum package, are you also contracting for annual updates on things like in social studies as things change? Do they don't wait for the 6-year cycle to come up to update some of the curriculum materials in their packages? How does that work when you're on a contract with a curriculum package?
It depends. It depends heavily on the company. And so your bigger companies are going to do faster turnarounds for updates. Your smaller companies are going to probably lag a little bit. And that is why grades 4 and 5 opted to not really purchase a new curriculum in social studies right now, because they like TCI. However, they don't have currently an updated platform for the newer social studies standards. So what they'd like to do is This past year, we've worked with elementary teachers to align standards and what resources they're using. And so what they'd like to do is, instead of buying a big curriculum per se, they'd like to buy resources and tools in order to support what standards they're teaching, and doing that through reading and writing and standalone social studies classes.
Lindsay, I do have one question. I see, because it says in here per student based on approximately 1,000 students per year. That obviously includes all of our SPED students as well. So the SPED faculty would get the same kinds of materials and all the supports that, because some of the students actually are in the resource room more frequently than they are out in, excuse me, the gen ed class. So I wanted to make sure that that is the case.
So if I could speak personally from an assistant principal coming from the middle school and working with special education there, a lot of times our middle school special education teachers would take social studies or science types of materials, and they would pull students and make sure that they're teaching those on their level, but also reaching into those grade level standards. They had access to all materials that any general education teacher did as well. So those subscriptions not only are for our gen ed teachers, but also for our special education teachers, EAs, and anyone that would use those platforms.
Thank you, because I know frequently that didn't used to happen. And
Sure.
I know you're very aware of that. So I just wanted to make sure, because I know that oftentimes the accommodations would require that for students.
Yes.
Thank you, Lindsay.
You're welcome.
Are there any other? Thank you, Lindsay.
You're welcome.
At this time, I'd like to invite Director Malone to do a first reading of the new and revised policies. Welcome, Mr. Malone.
Thanks, Dr. Thoreau, and I'd like to say hello to everyone. I might present these in just a bit different order than the way they're listed in the agenda because of the topics, and group some of these things together. And also, just as an explanation for our newer board members, I'll just read through the policies and explain a little bit. So policy 1520, employment of administrators. Policy 31, these are all revisions. Policy 3120, employment of professional staff. Policy 3120.05, employment of personnel for summer school. Policy 3120.08 and 4120.08, employment of personnel for co-curricular and extracurricular activities. And then there's also, for 3120 and 4120, language has been revised to eliminate some of the highly qualified terms. But the basis of this is, and for those that were on the board last year and before, will recall that there was a problem, not with our district, but across the state, where there were some individuals who were teaching without license. And when the auditor looked at that, they came really down to the treasurers and said they would be responsible for if it was found that there were people working in districts who didn't have a license. So this House Bill 491 has limited the liability on the treasurer, and at the same time it's required that, for example, human resources, that we notify the treasurer when people are hired that they're highly qualified, or that they're qualified and they have a license, they hold a valid Ohio license before they would be paid. So that's basically those policies. Those are the changes that are suggested in those policies. Policy 3120.04, employment of substitute teachers. In the past, we had a problem. We had long-term and short-term based on license. Short-term license, a person could not work longer than 60 days in any particular assignment. Well, because of the shortage of really substitute teachers, the state looked at this change and they've modified it in such a way to allow us to use people who maybe haven't in a particular license, but they're a secondary license. It allows us to expand a long-term situation if we need to do that. So that's what that revision is about. Policy 2464, gifted education identification. It's requiring the district again to do more. That we're required to provide more information about opt-out services, that if families want to get out of gifted education, also more identification in terms of assessment and evaluation. And this policy, this updated policy, would then be submitted to the state along with our district plan, our gifted plan, that would be submitted to the state on an annual basis. Policy 4124, employment contract, and this is for non-teaching employees. And we, in assistance with our attorney, last year when we negotiated, we really wrote the new changes into our current contract. So, for example, for all of our non-teaching employees, we're now living with a two-tier system. For example, the people that were hired prior to 2019, if we hired a person, let's say, for example, in 2017, they would have a one-year probationary period. They would then go through two-year periods, and after their fifth year, they would be eligible for a continuing contract. After 2019, and that's what this is reflecting, it's also in our contract currently, is that the new persons now hired will go through a period of one probationary period. They'll then have three two-year periods. So they have to work a total of 7 years before they become eligible for a continuing contract. So this policy is really catching up with what we've already built into our current contract. Graduation requirements, policy 5460. I think we're going to continue to see this policy come up again for more revisions. Currently, this applies to the class of 2023 and beyond. And this is something that we're going to have to talk with the curriculum department and certainly Dr. Thoreau and the high school, because it requires, the State Board of Education is requiring us to adopt guidelines issuing these new state seals. And I don't pretend to understand all of what is happening here, but it says, for example, our district and districts must offer at least one of the three local seals, which will be the Community Service Seal, Fine Arts and Performing Arts Seal, and also a seal of student engagement. We're also developing a new administrative guideline that will pair with that policy so that we're again in compliance with what's the state's requirement for graduation requirements. Policy, this is a new policy coming up, this policy 546002. As I read this, and this is one of the policies where I wish we were at work and have been at work and had more time to sit down and talk with people about this, because it sounds, and as it reads, is that we are required, the district is required to develop a graduation plan for each student, 9 through 12, almost as if it's an IEP. And that policy has to be reviewed annually for the progress of the student. So it's also looking at the situation of those students that are in jeopardy of not graduating, and we're then required to establish an intervention plan. So parents and guardians would be notified annually. And I think that an advantage that maybe we have here is that because the state's saying this is a requirement, that we have to look at each student, we have to monitor their progress, and then we also have to determine if they're in jeopardy of not graduating, quote, on time, what are we doing to provide intervention? You know, I know at the high school, I mean, we have the alternative school program, we've got the TOL, Teaching Online program, we have the SAP program, you know, we've got counselors, we've got the extra time, extra help. And I know that in some cases those are seen as extras because they're not a full teaching period day in and day out. But if you review and when you read through this new policy, I almost think that we have kind of built in, anticipated this is coming, so that we run into the situations when we have to document what have we done for this particular student to show and for their family to show everything that we could do to mediate to help them, all of these policy or all of these programs that we have in place, I think would really help support this policy and what we need. The last policy I have today is policy 6107, and this is an authorization to accept and distribute electronic records for the use of electronic signatures. And again, Shauna could probably explain more of this than I could, but I think there are times when we have electronic signatures that are necessary between the boards and agencies such as Medicaid and IEP services. So those are the 12 policies for the first review of volume 38, number 2. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. In public participation, there is no one in the crowd, but Shauna, do you have anything you'd like to, or excuse me, Holly, is there anything on the agenda that you want to read?
Yes, I actually have 2 submissions. I'll start out with an update regarding the Talawanda food distribution program that we've had in place during this time that we've been on shut down and doing remote learning. Just kudos to Amy Masechko and Stephanie Jones, who have just done an outstanding job putting the planning together. So I'm actually going to read some information that they provided to me. They want to thank everyone for all of their time and support that's been put into the food distribution program to support students and their families. Since the first week that schools have been closed, we have been able to provide 23,160 meals to Talawanda School District students. Each day includes both a breakfast and a lunch. Meals include fresh fruit, vegetables, a variety of entrees like peanut butter and jelly, pasta, chicken, egg sandwiches, omelets, muffins, cereal, juice, and milk. All students, regardless of age, income, or any other factor, are welcome to receive meals at any of our 12 convenient sites. We're grateful to St. Mary's, who run the backpack program, and within the first 5 weeks have provided 1,369 weekend snack packs to our students. The partnership that we have established with these volunteers has been amazing, and we're so appreciative. We've been overwhelmed with the outpouring of support and the generosity shown towards our students during this time. We'd like to thank some individuals and organizations that have contributed to the success of the program. A huge shout out to Jim, the custodian at Kramer, who's gone above and beyond to assist us with food preparation. For those who don't know, Kramer Elementary is our staging site, and we spend a lot of hours in there packing food, and Jim's really been helpful. Over 70 staff members who have helped in the cold, rain, and some days sunshine at our 12 sites across the district. Cafeteria staff from all Talawanda schools who have prepared nutritious and delicious meals. Crossroads Church, who have provided coffee for all the sites, and they also help pack the meals. Envision Partnerships for help with preparing meals. The Chamber of Commerce for collecting boxes. Residents who have dropped off plastic bags, donated books, school supplies, and other miscellaneous items for our students. The Miami University Athletic Department for the donation of books. Bikewise for the donation of bikes. Oxford Parks and Recreation for organizing a collection of items to encourage physical activity. The City of Oxford, Riley, Hanover, Oxford, and Milford Townships for supporting our distribution sites. Sigma Lambda Gamma Sorority for personal hygiene items, and the Butler County Sheriff's Department and the Oxford Police Department for helping with deliveries. We want to encourage all Talawanda families to let meal volunteers know if they or anyone that they know has an additional need. We're happy to help make connections to ensure that residents have their basic needs met during this time. And for a list of meal sites and times, you can visit our website at www.talawanda.org. I've had another submission, and this is from Matt Likens, who's an English teacher at Talawanda High School and is also the co-president of the Talawanda Teachers Educators Union. Perhaps it goes without saying, but TEA wanted to make known how proud and encouraged we are by the energy, professionalism, creativity, and flexibility our teachers and administrators have demonstrated the past 5 weeks, whether it's lesson planning, student and parent communication, handing out food to those in need, or coordinating or administering, or organizing administrative and district leadership meetings online. We are so proud to work in a district that prioritizes the health and safety of our families, all the while striving to construct a lasting educational experience in an unprecedented time. A week ago, David and I attended a Zoom meeting with other association presidents in Southwest Ohio. It was clear from the beginning that the planning effort and priorities of Talawanda School District was not only enviable, but very rare. Thanks to everyone, administrative, certified, and classified, for all of your hard work. Thanks so much, Matt. And Mr. Otto, those are the only 2 submissions that I have this evening. Mr. Otto, I think your sound is off.
Mr. Otto is having a little bit of difficulty. Let's give him 1 minute and he will be up and running again. He just glitched out for a second. Welcome to the world of technology in our first try.
If you would like, Dr. Thoreau, I could do my Butler Tech report while he's getting up and running, since that's next on the agenda.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Mead.
Okay. The Butler Tech School Board met Tuesday, March 17th. That's the day after we had canceled our board meeting in March. The Butler Tech Board met remotely. And I think Butler Tech's dealing with what all school districts are dealing with right now as far as online learning, and particular emphasis paid to seniors as to how to graduate, and down there with their labs and industry credentials creates a whole nother layer of issues that they have to deal with. And like Talawanda, I think the administration down there is doing an excellent job dealing with that. I know at the last board meeting, when we were in person meeting, Dr. Roberts asked me about the number of Talawanda students enrolled at Butler Tech. And I was in the process of creating a whole PowerPoint presentation with that information broke down by the different campuses at Butler Tech and how many students of ours were there over the past 5 years. But I wanted to see how tonight's meeting went before I sent Matt Rand a PowerPoint to see if we would be able to institute that into our board meeting. And so I promise I'll do that next meeting. Hopefully we work out the bugs in the meantime. One of the things, the Butler Tech Board is meeting tomorrow, and I noticed on the agenda for tomorrow is the approval of 2 field trips that involve Talawanda FFA. A leadership conference on June 2nd to 7th, taking 5 students to Washington, D.C. We'll have to see if that's going to happen. And then another FFA camp, June 15th to 19th in Carrollton, where the students would take a bus, not a plane, with 15 students. So I'm sure we'll approve those tomorrow night at the board meeting for the Talawanda FFA students, but I think it'll be a wait and see that if they really happen. And that's the Butler Tech report.
All right, I think I'm back. Legislative Liaison report, Dr. Knight Abowitz.
Yes, most people already know this, but this is the last legislative action that the legislature took. It was House Bill 197 that was passed by the General Assembly on March 27th. This was the bill that did many, many things, and I can send you a copy of what's in the bill if you email me and you want to see everything there. But some of the highlights are that it eliminated state and federal testing for the 1920 school year. It prohibited the issuance of report cards for the 1920 school year. It froze the Ed Choice eligibility at last year's list, so we are spared from Bogan being involved. It also permits students and it put a lot of things in place. It waived the third grade reading guarantee retention requirement. It permitted schools to not conduct evaluations of district employees, and a number of other things that enabled schools to get on with business in light of the COVID crisis, including a provision to permit boards of education to use electronic communication instead of in-person meetings for conducting our business. So long list of things that this bill made possible, and I can send you more details if you're interested. My email is on the website if you'd like all the details of that bill. That's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Knight Abowitz. The Arts and Athletics Liaison Report, Dr. Howard.
Clearly, there's not a lot to report with the current circumstances. I just would like to mention that clearly we all have regrets about the canceled performances and athletic events. So many students had been preparing for, students, faculty, coaches, everybody in the district. That's certainly been one of the hardships of this current situation. I would like to just mention very quickly that it's currently 7:50 at 8:20. Talawanda is participating with other schools around the area in a recognition of senior athletes. And so from 8:20 to 8:40, the lights of the stadium will be on in recognition of those students and of the performances and events that we've been missing. If anybody wants to be part of that or just see that. I'd also like to just give a shout out, as Matt Likens said earlier, his comment that Holly Moorish read in, the outstanding efforts that we've seen from faculty and administration throughout the district in terms of flexibility. And I would like to give a particular shout out. One thing I've been really impressed with is the Twitter feed of the football program. The football coach has been just amazing at continuing to send to his athletes messages of hope and inspiration and support, and encouraging them to stay safe and healthy and to continue to work out and work towards their goals. And I think the activity on his Twitter feed with his students has really been amazing in this current context. So thank you to the football coach and the entire athletic staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. The Student Achievement Academic Liaison Report, Dr. Roberts.
At this point, I don't have anything other than to say also, as everyone has mentioned, thank you to all of the professionals in our district. I have been on several OSBA town hall meetings, and I have to say that listening to some of the things that are happening in other districts, I'm extremely proud of all of our professionals. I am scheduled to be in Columbus next week on Monday, which of course is not going to happen, for a state student achievement meeting, which I think will probably be a Zoom meeting. And so if that does happen, I will report on that next time.
Thank you, Dr. Robert. Treasurer, Ms. Tefelsky.
First up is the approval of the minutes. It is recommended that the board approve the following minutes as presented for April 2nd, 2020 regular meeting.
So to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Mead. Do I have a second?
Second.
I didn't know who did that, so I'm going to give it to Dr. Howard because she seems to be disappointed. Is there any discussion? Ms. Stafowski, would you please call the roll?
Of course. Mr. Mead,
Yes.
Mr. Otto,
Yes.
Dr. Roberts,
Yes.
Dr. Knight Abowitz,
Yes.
Dr. Howard.
Yes.
Motion carried. I ask that we block out items B, D, and E, as there isn't anything at this time.
Are there other motions you need?
We can do C, approval of appropriation modifications. And I recommend that the board approve the appropriation modifications as presented.
We need a motion for C, D, and E. I'm
B, D, and E.
B, D, and E. I so move.
Can I have a,
Second.
Second.
Who seconded?
Pat seconded.
I got it. Okay. Going to take a roll. Mr. Otto?
is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Dr. Knight Abowitz?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Motion carried. Now I recommend the board approve the appropriation modifications as presented in 4C.
Do I have a motion to approve 4C?
So move.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Abbott. Any discussion? Ms. Stafowski, would you call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Otto? Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Dr. Knight Abowitz?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Motion carried. Next item on the list is 4F, and I recommend that the board approve the financial report as presented.
Do I have a motion to approve 4F?
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Howard. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Mead. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Dr. Knight Abowitz?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Motion carried. Next item is 4G, and it is recommended that the board approve a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying to the county auditor.
So do I have a motion to approve 4G?
So move.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Would you please call the roll?
Yes.
Wait,
Dr. Knight?
I'm sorry. Any discussion?
I just wanted to ask what this could, Shauna, could you, Ms. Tefelsky, could you explain this to me a little bit more?
Yes, these are the tax rates that, so for all of our voted millage, all of our levies out there, they have to basically do a true up each year and determine the appropriate rate that it's going to be so that we don't collect more or less than what was voted in on those original levies.
Okay, thanks.
And this is for fiscal year 21. So this is for next year.
Starting July 1, yeah.
Yes,
August
correct.
1. Yes.
July 1.
Right.
Yep.
Are there any other questions? Would you please call the roll?
Yes, Dr. Knight Edwards,
Yes.
Dr. Howard,
Yes.
Mr. Mead,
Yes.
Mr. Otto,
Yes.
Dr. Roberts.
Yes.
Motion passes. The next item I have is just a really quick Marshall project update. We had a virtual conference this past week with SHP and Robertson to allow Ed and myself and a few others to get caught up to speed. To date, the coronavirus has not impeded the project, and in fact, if you drove out there, you would see activity is going on, dirt's being moved, things are starting to, progress is starting to be made. We did learn, however, that the soils are not meeting the original scope of the project, possibly resulting in a substitution in the piers that are going to be used for the foundation of the building. And unfortunately, a more aggregate pier could have an additional cost of $75,000. So we're still learning about this, and they're still deciding exactly what is the best approach for the foundation. But our contingency fund could get tapped right off the bat, upwards of $75,000.
I just want to add to it. We all knew that there was a section of soil in the Marshall design, just the same as where the gym is, where the soil is very sandy, very wet. It will not support a building. However, if you've gone and looked at the site as they're excavating, they realized that that area is bigger than what we had anticipated. And we had some of that money already built into the plan. This is not uncommon to come across issues that we have to draw from the contingency fund. However, the piers that Shauna was talking about is the best solution. It's a little bit more expensive at first, but what it will do will keep us on time, on scheduled, and it will cost less in the long run as if we excavated, because that's the other method to do this. If we excavated, it would push back the time period. It's cheaper up front, but you would pay more than the $75K in the long run. And we both were a part of that conversation with the architect and SHP in Roberts.
Right. Okay. 4I is the Auditor of State Performance Audit Update. This performance audit was recently released on March 26. They recommended 10 areas where Talawanda could reduce expenses and improve our operational management. We should be holding a work session as soon as COVID allows to keep us all safe, to review the report and see how some of these recommendations can be implemented. Next item that I have is 4G, just an update on the coronavirus. In light of the current virus events, Optimal Health, which is also Butler Health Plan, has instructed Express Scripts to temporarily remove the edit to stop refill too soon, which will allow members to get their active prescriptions refilled without having to wait for the 1-week window that we all currently have to refill a prescription. So this will help our members who rely on those medications to get them earlier versus later. So this is a good thing. We also have the financial impact that COVID is going to cause us. April is going to be the first full month of financial impact. We don't know yet the full budget implications to education, but we do know that our local funding will be impacted heavily. Our school district income tax will be hit hard with more and more people having to file for unemployment. County auditors are also asking for a delay on when property owners need to pay their second half of the property tax. If this is approved, then we will get this money later. It's not going to come in on the September settlement as usually it is. And if this is approved, we also need to anticipate a higher amount of delinquencies with people losing their jobs. They're not going to be able to possibly pay the property taxes, so they're going to go delinquent. This means that we will eventually get the money, but it could be in future years, not the current year that we're expecting it. So we just need to have a heads up. We're going to be, our interest rates obviously are going to be impacted a little bit. So we really do need to start taking a look at the possibilities of what this is going to do to our finances going forward. So I'm not trying to be an alarmist. We just need to be forward thinking and just be cognizant of it. Next item I have is Amtrak. I tried to get caught up to speed with Mike's notes on this, and Kate Rumenier, one of the Oxford Township's trustees, also has given me a little bit of information on this. From what I understand, Amtrak, and Ed also did a virtual conference on this last week as well, so he may pipe in and piggyback on this with me. But Amtrak would like to do another market analysis to see if Oxford and other communities are a viable option for a train stop. So even after 5 years, they are not committing to our Oxford community. With our current environment, this has been put on hold indefinitely. So we don't know when they're going to do that market analysis. I do understand that the city will need an easement on the Nelson Morrow property, as the platform will be behind this building. So the city, from what I'm understanding, is still trying to move ahead, even though Amtrak is on hold. Ed, you want to say anything about this that I didn't cover?
You did an excellent job, so thank you very much, and welcome, Shauna, by the way, to the position of interim treasurer, CFO.
Thank you.
The only other thing that I'd like to add is we also have to remember that they're also looking at the Butler County Regional Transportation facilities. So they're looking at rebuilding where the buses are as well. So that plan is going forward, and they're in the concept stage of what that building would look like. So how does that affect Talawanda? Well, we're going to see more buses on Chestnut as that facility gets up and running. We're going to see that our property, the Nelson Morrow property in particular, is very valuable, especially if the Amtrak comes through, and it's a desirable location that others may want that. So I know Shauna and we've talked about that as well as with the board to ensure that we make some astute decisions in reference to the Nelson Morrow building. And then Peterman, for instance, even though it's not our company, they provide our buses. The initial designs for the new concept will allow Peterman to maintain and have office spaces as well as the buses there. And there is talk that the facilities will have an office as well at this new Butler County Regional Transportation, which is all good. So you're going to see that area change, especially if the Amtrak comes in the near future.
So to piggyback on what Ed just said, Butler County Rural Transit Authority has currently $10 million in funding, but they will be seeking out MOUs with Talawanda and with Miami on some possible matching grant funds. So we need to be aware of that as well. So that is all I have.
Thank you, Shauna. Report Superintendent Dr. Thoreau.
Hi, everybody. So I am recommending that the board approve, and I'm blocking this, 5A, the approval of certificated licensed personnel, which includes the acceptance of a resignation of a school psychologist that was at Bogan, the approval of the non-renewal of the 2019 as needed summer school teachers, and the 2019-20 individual small group instructors. And we do this every year with that, as well as 5B, the approval of classified personnel, which is the recommendation of the board to accept the resignation of Larry Cox as an educational assistant at the conclusion of the 2019-20 contract year. Larry, as you know, is our football coach. We will be bringing forward another motion for him. He's not going anywhere in May, but we weren't able to get that ready by today. And then approval of the supplemental personnel and its approval of supplemental contracts. And then I would also, nope, that would be it, please.
So is that approved? 5A1, 2, 5B, and 5C?
Correct.
So do I have a motion to approve 5A1, 5A2, 5B, and 5C?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Mead. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Knight Abowitz. Is there any discussion?
I have a question, a clarification question on the supplemental contracts that all appear to be for spring sports. So these are these contracts for people who are actually employed, or I'm just a little confused about what these contracts are.
Great question. So if you notice, it's only the middle school. All other of the spring sports supplementals that already gone through in the previous board meeting. So per our contract, and since they had started the supplemental, and we've checked with our attorneys and gotten advice on this, as well as what other districts are, we are on the hook, so to speak, to pay for these supplementals. These were the few supplementals that we did not have the names for 2 months ago when we had canceled our board meeting. So that's why they're coming forward today. But they did work a little over a week in this.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
There was a lot of discussion a couple weeks ago with our attorneys on House Bill 197, and this was one section that they talked quite a bit about, but I totally agree with Ed. It needs to go through because the other choices were not good ones.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts.
Is there any other discussion?
Dr. Howard,
Yes?
Mr. Mead,
Yes.
Mr. Otto,
Yes.
Dr. Roberts,
Yes.
Dr. Knight Abowitz.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0.
Thank you.
At this point in time, it is recommended that the board approve amended 2019-2020 graduation requirement to follow the state required minimum credit and curriculum as the Ohio Department of Education has waived the state required assessments and has provided graduation guidance to the coronavirus pandemic, closing of school districts, and online learning. So basically what this is doing is, this is going to the required state minimum requirement set by the Ohio Department of Education. And as you will notice, you're going to hear me getting on my soapbox a little bit about this, these testing assessments, while they can give us one data point and we can use that to help build instruction and where we're going, no student is going to be harmed this school year due to any of these additional beyond the requirements of the state minimum. So our board needs to pass this in order for us to move forward, which is going to benefit all students.
So do I have a motion to approve 5D?
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Howard. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? With no discussion, please call the roll.
Mr. Mead,
Yes.
Mr. Otto,
Yes.
Dr. Roberts,
Yes.
Dr. Knight Abowitz,
Yes.
Dr. Howard.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
At this point in time, Director Jones is going to join me in this in the preschool update that is on the agenda. We wanted to talk a little bit about what we're doing. We have some concern. We hope that we will be able to be up and running with our preschool next school year. But please understand that ODE and other agencies are not open at this point in time. They're parts of ODE and they're a little bit slower than what we're normal. And I want to give great kudos to Director Jones. She has applied for the license and certification. But if we don't get that license and certification back, guess what? We can't open next school year with our own pre-K. However, if that has happened, we've already entered into an agreement with the Butler County ESC that they would perform 1 year knowing that this would be their last year if that was to come up. Director Jones, would you like to add anything about the pre-K update, please?
Sure. Good evening. I just wanted to reiterate what Ed said, that I did apply for the license. Before we all shut down, they told me it would take up to 30 days. So I'm optimistic and hoping that they will get someone in there that can approve us. So I'm moving forward with hopes that we will. So we have site manager interviews scheduled for this week. We, before we shut down, had sent out the re-enrollment forms to all the current preschool kids that are eligible to come back. And we had received all of those back, so we know how many slots we have open. We'll be reaching out to those that have shown interest that are on the wait list to fill the remaining spots. And I'm working with the TNL team to figure out how to start tracking all the things that we're responsible for tracking. And that's where we're at. So hopefully, if we are able to get the preschool license, we'll be good to go. So keep your fingers crossed that somebody comes back to work up there.
Thank you. It is recommended that the board approve the agreement with the Butler County Mental Health and Addiction Recovery Service Board. In this, I'm just going to let you know that Amy Masechko has done another amazing job, and the Butler County Mental Health and Addiction Recovery Services Board received a huge grant. And this huge grant can be used for any of the Butler County school districts, but you got to enter into a partnership, and that's what this is doing. And within that partnership, the money is divided by all schools that wanted to be a part of it in Butler County. And I believe only 6 took it up on it. And I could be off on that number, but I know not all 8 school districts. So we got a bigger chunk of the money because other districts didn't do that. So in there, we are working on a plan to provide services to our families and our parents using some of this money. And again, it's all about health, wellness, and doing well. So with that, I need the board to approve this agreement.
So do I have a motion to approve 5F?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Mead. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Howard. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Ed, is this $75,000 grant?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute and went on mute for a second. It's like pressing a button. Unmute.
Was this the one that we received a while ago, the $75,000?
Great question. No. So that we have that 75,000. This
Right.
was bigger than $75,000, and I don't know the exact amount of it, but it'll be about 150,000, if not more, money coming to us on top of this.
Okay, so with that agreement that we're working with the Addiction Recovery Services Board, is that some kind of an agreement that we will then have to approve?
So yes, according to the Butler County Mental Health and Addiction Recovery Services and part of their grant application to get this money,
Right.
they stated that they would enter into memos of understanding,
Right.
or into agreement, some sort of agreement with each district that joins with them. And so that was a part of their relationship in order to get the money, because on their own, or us on our own, we would not be able to get that grant. So it has to be a collaboration, and it has to be a partnership. So that's the agreement, that we would work together and how we would identify the goals and what we're going to spend the money on per the grant terms, which is all about the health and wellness and prevention services. And we probably could even do some reaction services if we need to as well in that grant.
Okay, so as that is being developed, then will you keep us informed?
Yes, and what I will do is I will have Amy Misechko come and talk to us later once we get rolling on, because she'll do a great job and be able to give you more of the details for it. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? Would you please call the roll?
Dr. Roberts,
Yes.
Dr. Knight Abowitz,
Yes.
Dr. Howard,
Yes.
Mr. Meany,
Yes.
Mr. Otto.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Now I would like to ask the board and recommend that the board approve the overnight trip for EMS students going to Glen Helen. And just for your knowledge, we used to go in February. We actually got a better time slot, we thought. The new time slot is going to be October. Hopefully the coronavirus is over and this isn't going to be affected either, but if it needs to, we can look at that and adjust that. But I'm excited that it's going to be October when it's warmer, because I went this last time in February and it was a bit cold.
So do I have a motion to approve 5G?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Mead. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Knight Abowitz. Is there any discussion? Mr. Oski, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Otto,
Yes.
Mr. Meany,
Yes.
Dr. Howard,
Yes.
Dr. Knight Abowitz.
Yes.
Motion passes.
We are almost there. So give me 1 second as I flip. For H, it is recommended that the board approve the donation of masks, gloves, and other medical supplies as needed to Tri-Health McCullough Hyde or other community agencies in need of these medical supplies due to coronavirus or COVID-19 health crisis. And just a little background on that. We will give them all of our gloves and our masks, and they will hold them. If they do not need them or use them, they will return them. But I think it's important, being a community partner in this time of need, that we need to protect all. One person sick, one death is one too many. And for our medical professions not to have what they need to treat us as community members, to me, is disheartening. So This is a way that Talawanda School District can be a valuable partner with Tri-Health, McCullough High.
So do I have a motion to? Excuse me, my muting keeps changing on me. Could I have a motion to approve 5H?
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Mead. Is there any discussion?
I just have another question. Again, this is just clarification. I think this is a great idea, but I'm just curious as to if these are supplies, what are these supplies that we have? Are they supplies that are being used or will be used by the staff and folks who are doing the food distribution, or what are these supplies that we have?
So these supplies came from our science lab as well as our nurses. So they are not being used for food distribution at all. We have gloves for those types and masks. As you can see, I have one. And thank you, Kelly Franks, for making my mask for me. What also will happen is we will work with Shauna, and there is the CARES Act. The CARES Act will allow us, if we use these medical supplies, to be reimbursed for those supplies. We're hoping it's going to be 100%, and that percentage keeps changing. Today, I heard it might be 90%. It all depends on how much people put in to get reimbursed for it. And that's some of the federal money as well as state money that has come through. It can't go through the federal side of the money that looks at like sanitation, cleaning, deep cleaning, anything related to the coronavirus, but it definitely fits in ACT's CARES. So we should be able to get that money or most of that money back. But again, I believe it's being a good community partner that we can do that, and then we would have to reorder.
I agree. Thank you for that clarification.
Is there any other discussion? Very good. Mr. Fauske, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Otto,
Yes.
Mr. Mead,
Yes.
Dr. Howard,
Yes?
Dr. Knight Abowitz,
Yes.
Dr. Roberts.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, the next item for me is just informational items. I want to let you know, if you have not heard from Governor DeWine today, closed all of Ohio schools for the rest of this academic year. We've also done some information on our social media and on our website to let people know. We still do not know about next year. And Governor DeWine indicated that he will wait and see how we're doing. So in preparation for this year and for next year, we have a leadership meeting that we're going to meet on Thursday, and we're going to continue to, our online planning and delivery is going well, and we still continue to problem solve, and that's okay. But we also need to look at what does graduation look like, what do other activities look like, as well as next year. So I can tell you, before we close down this year, my leadership team and my staff have been amazing. We devised various scenarios, from the worst case scenario, which is a total closure, to like a hybrid system, to we're operating normal. And we're going to continue to do that again with how it looks to end this year as well as to start up next year. And we're going to come up with a different amount of plans. Unfortunately, to the community, it's going to take us some time to really understand and know which one is going to be chosen. So I really appreciate your patience on this. I know we want answers right now. I also know it's very difficult for families, especially with daycare and not knowing those types of issues. With that, in the very near future, we are going to publicize on our website, since we're closed, we need to do registration. We need to do registration for incoming kindergarten students, our pre-K students, and also for any new people that are moving into our district, as well as process any withdrawals. So we are going to do that by appointment only. And you are going to have to make an appointment with Savannah, Mayor, and we are going to require you to maintain social distance. So it's going to be one person at a time. You'll come in, she will let you into her office, she will process you, and the next person will wait outside or in the hallway if it's bad weather or whatever. Again, 6 feet apart, but by appointment. And what we're going to do is maintain that social distance so that we can keep everybody safe, but also be able to process everybody soon. Open enrollment inter and inter-district applications are online. They must be done and mailed in by mail. And people have already done that. You may continue to do that. And you will send it to the Board of Education offices. All of those directions are online. With that, Talawanda School District will continue to provide 5 days of meals at the 12 different sites that we talked about through June. We've gotten permission to go through June. So we do not have permission at this point in time to do July or the first half of August if we come back in August. So I want people to be prepared for that. If we don't have permission and reimbursement, we may not be able to do foods for July and the half part of August, but we're working with Shared Harvest to see if we can get them to help partner and other community agencies to partner with us. But again, no child will be turned away. If you need help, if you just need to get some food, please come to one of the 12 sites. It's on the website. We want to help. We want to be there. We know that these are trying times for everybody. I want to do a big thank you to Amy Masechko, Shauna, Stephanie Jones, and Mary Lynn Bierman for their outstanding leadership with the meals and the meal preparation. We are maintaining social distances when we're making and prepping the food, as well to delivery. People are just driving up and we're giving them the food like in the back of their trunks or however it opens. We do have a few areas where people don't have cars and they walk up, and we do the best that we can. We have some amazing pictures. I just want to give you a snapshot. We had an elementary girl with a preschool sibling come up with a little red wagon and no adult, and they came up and they had other siblings at home, and we knew the family, of course, and I will tell you, our staff was amazing. Our staff loaded up that wagon, and there they go with the little red wagon walking back to their home. So these are some of the good things that we need to talk to. I will tell you, we do ask for names, and we're not asking names to submit for any type of reimbursement or to know who's coming. We ask for names because we have our social workers and our guidance counselors and our teachers check those lists. We know there are some families, for whatever reason, might not have been able to come that day or haven't been coming. We use our SROs, we have teachers, we have police, we have social workers, and we are delivering door to door when somebody doesn't come. And I think that's very important too. We want to make sure that everybody is taken care of. And with that, as we do the online learning, your teachers are reaching out to each and every student. If you have a need as a parent or as a student, if you're struggling, reach out to your teachers. Let us problem solve. Let us work together, and maybe we can help connect you to other agencies. This is a long time to be isolated and without friends, especially for our students. We want to be there for you. And thank you to all of our community partners who are partnering with us to make all of this feasible and workable. I thought, closing of school, that, hey, maybe, I might get home for dinner at some point in time. But in fact, what I'm finding is there's actually a lot more hours coming into making sure that we are good community partners. And I appreciate all of the work that the Talawanda School District staff are doing. They're an amazing staff, and I'm telling you, we're leaps and bounds ahead of many other school districts in this area, and we're doing what's right for kids and for our community. So that ends my report. Thank you. Be safe and be healthy.
Dr. Thoreau, before you close, I've got one question for you about the agenda. On the certified staff, I know that you announced that we accept a recommendation from a psychologist, but I thought on the agenda we had listed our new psychologist for next year at Bogan. And I don't know if that was in a block and it just went through or if it needed to be stated.
Thank you. Let me go back and look at that, and if it's so, we will re-vote on it. Give me 1 second to get back to the page. I might have misread it when I was doing it.
I believe it was in a block that we voted on.
Okay,
I don't.
then we're going to re-vote on that block. So give me a second to find that block because I want to make sure that we do this right. I'm almost there. I am looking for it.
And I'm sorry, I don't have an agenda in front of me and I couldn't see it.
It's under 5A. I think you have a 1, 2, and 3 there.
Okay, got it. Okay.
No, we only voted 1 and 2.
Okay, so I'm going to ask for the recommendation of the board to approve 5A. I am sorry that it is out of order. It was my mistake, and I apologize. And that is the hiring of the new school psychologist at Bogan. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Malone. So do I have a motion to approve 5A3?
So move.
Thank you, Dr. Howard. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Knight-Atwood. Is there any discussion? Yes.
I have a question. On the agenda, it says step 1 master's for 30. The contract that was given to me by Rita is at a step 2 master's.
I heard that the step 2 master's plus 30 is the correct for that person we're talking about. There was a revision after initially it went in step 1, and I think it came back to step 2 plus 30, counting the intern type that psychologists worked under before they came to us.
So it is correct, listed. It is step 2 master's plus 30.
I apologize,
All right. So I think we had a motion.
Mhm.
Was there any other discussion? Mr. Fauske, would you call the roll?
Yes, Dr. Knight-Atwood,
Yes.
Dr. Howard,
Yes.
Mr. Mead,
Yes.
Mr. Otto,
Yes.
and Dr. Roberts.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Are there any items from the board members now?
Yes.
Yes, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mary Jane.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to say thank you to Carrie Roberts, one of our instructors for the FFA, because the FFA donated PPD to the Oxford Police, EMT, and Fire Department on April 2nd, and Officer Butler picked it all up and took it to them. So I sent Carrie a thank you, but I also wanted to have her recognized tonight for what the FFA did for our local police department, EMTs, and fire department.
I have 3 things. First is just a reminder, following up on what Dr. Thoreau said about meals distribution, food distribution to families, that no one will be turned away. I just want us all to remember that there's also a local pantry Tops that is also serving families and does not turn people away if they're struggling to get the food from the district, or once we get into the end of that program, if that's not approved to move forward. I'd also like to recognize, we're talking a lot about how unfortunate it is for seniors who are missing, out on all of the events and the closure of their senior year. But I think we also need to remember that there are teachers who are retiring this year, and they're not getting their last day closure either. And I just want to recognize those teachers who are also missing out on that closure. I also have a question. There's been a question about community members, and again, we're working out bugs with this virtual meeting format. And there was a question about whether it's possible for community members to access the Wi-Fi from at the high school by sitting in their car in the parking lot. We're not talking about getting hotspots. We're not talking about coming in the building. Just asking if they can sit in the parking lot to be able to have a better Wi-Fi signal. As someone who lives in the country, I know that this can be an issue. I'm actually kind of pleased that my bandwidth has held up here tonight, so this is good. But I know there are other families that don't have that access at home who would like to be able to access these meetings in real time. So I'm wondering if that's a possibility, if there are concerns about people using the parking lot as such, or if there's some other issue that we need to know about. If anybody has information.
Let me address that. So I also received that same request. Right now, the governor has mandated a stay-at-home order unless it's for essential business. He has allowed boards to meet virtually. He's allowed certain school officials to work in certain areas to be deemed essential. So the person that had asked me about, first the person wanted us to buy Wi-Fi for the community, and then they asked about hotspots, and then they asked about coming to the parking lot and getting the Talawanda password to log in. First of all, you don't need a password to go onto the Talawanda guest if you're in any of our parking lots. But what I cannot give permission for, nor can the board, is to violate Governor DeWine's order and recommendations. That would be unwise, and we would never do that, and we would never risk anybody's health to do that. I believe in the near future, you're going to hear phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. You're going to see some relaxation of the restrictions and recommendations, which may allow us to even bring in some people into the high school. It might be 30 people or less. Right now, anything 10 people or more, we can't have anybody in, and we have that right here just to be able to operate how we're doing this online assessment here, and we don't want to break that as well. As for people who come into our parking lot, we are not monitoring or managing the parking lot, but then again, if the police come and the police or any type of law enforcement decide that they sitting in the parking lot is not essential and is a problem, we are not going to take that on as our option for the community to come. I did give some other ideas. I get it because I also live right on the Indiana state border, my backyard, so my internet doesn't work very well. So I typically have to use my phone's hotspot, and I know some people are technologically have issues with that, and I know it's not easy to get your internet companies or your phone cell companies to understand how to work that, but they can put on hotspot onto your phone that you could actually view the link and actually participate on your smartphone, or you can use that hotspot for your computer to hook to do it. And again, they're not great solutions that solve all of our issues, but I also want to be fiscal stewards in what we're doing and not, because the hotspots are expensive over time, and that would cost us a lot of money to pay for the community to do this. And again, I am hopeful that the restrictions will start to be lessened in the next month or two.
Thank you. Yeah, again, I just wanted to clarify that for the community as a whole that we're trying to figure out the best way for people to get access, and keeping in mind that some people just don't have, whether it's bandwidth or data limits even on their phones, or even cell reception. Again, we don't even get good cell reception out here. But I think it needs to be clear that it can't be a district approved use of the parking lot, because saying that you can, inviting people to come to the parking lot officially is counter to the stay-at-home order. So if people make that choice, that's not something we can officially sanction, and then they are subject to any, again, if there's any law enforcement interaction or anything. So I just wanted to make sure we were all clear on all of those issues and challenges, and we want to maximize participation as much as possible, but there are challenges to doing that, and we are limited in some legal sense as well, as a board and as a district in terms of liability. So
thank you for that clarification.
Yeah. Thank you.
I know that virtual meetings are not the same as meetings in person, but right now it's what we have. And it does leave some people out, but all public meetings leave some people out. We meet in the evening. We've always left out people on second shift. They've been unable to come to our meetings. It's just a fact of life. You can't be there for everybody at the same time. What we do have now is, it's videotaped, it's on record. People who can't make it at that time or can't access it at that time now have the opportunity to find a place or a time to see what we have done. So I think right now the board's taken a tremendous leap in transparency and openness, and I commend the board and the staff for helping us do that, because we are now more accessible to more people than ever at our board meetings. They may not be able to participate publicly, but the staff and the board has always had emails that people can write in at any time with any issue that they're concerned about. They may not be able to speak in front of an audience about it, but they'll never be shut out from speaking about it. Okay, so I think this, we've taken great steps in being transparent and open. And I would also like to add, my thanks to the people doing the food deliveries. I think Talawanda is doing just a tremendous job. And I guess I'll say it because we can't say it enough. And also want to thank the teachers and staff for being so adaptable and so creative and so flexible. Living with the staff member and listening to her read books to students and get calls from students and FaceTime, I can see this flexibility firsthand, and I know that's going on throughout the district. And then another issue on the meetings, at Butler Tech's meeting, I'm the new person kind of, but I'm sitting there and I've noticed at our virtual meeting, the same person moved and the same person seconded every motion. And after a while, it dawned on me that was prearranged. That to cut down on the confusion of us hitting buttons and unmuting and muting, most motions are going to be kind of uncontested, and you can move and second them, whether you end up voting no for them. And we might want to think in the future about Mr. Otto calling someone and saying, would you mind, motioning everything, and then calling someone else and say, would you mind seconding, just to cut down on some of the awkwardness and unmuting and forgetting to remute and then having echoes and such. And then last of all, I want to welcome Shauna and thank you for stepping up. I'm not sure what we'd do if you had said, no, you don't want to step up. So really, thank you very much for doing this for Talawanda at this time. It's very helpful.
You're welcome.
I'd like to, everybody else has said all the thank yous I wanted to say. Really grateful for teachers right now. Really grateful to all of our community partners that are enabling the food distribution and all the other things that are going on. I think the one person we haven't thanked yet is the superintendent, who has done a terrific job pivoting under really difficult conditions and providing leadership in the district in multiple crises, the crises of the coronavirus, obviously the crisis of losing Mr. Davis. And I really appreciate what everyone is doing, especially Superintendent Thoreau, who is trying to lead us through this really difficult time. Ms. Tefelsky, I'm really looking forward to working more closely with you and thanking you for your service during the time before you were officially appointed and then now going forward. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I often call Dr. Thoreau and talk to him, and I always ask him what part of the I often ask Dr. Thoreau what part of the pandemic manual he's reading, because that wasn't in class. So I know his class, he and his staff and all the teachers are being adaptive, and everything changes. There's been nothing constant about all this. And the other thing I'd like to do is say thank you for all those. The other time, I'd also like to tell Shauna thank you. I asked her if she would be willing to do it, and without hesitation, she did. And truth be told, she stepped up and was being a treasurer before I even talked to her. So we appreciate her initiatives to take care of things and get things done and keep things moving. So Shauna, again, thank you for all you're doing. And with that, just to mention that the next board meeting is going to be May 11th. I'll try to be better at this. I'll make sure my mute button works better. But I do need a motion to adjourn. Mr. Mead, could you give us a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Dr. Roberts, could you give us a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts. Any discussion? Ms. Tefelsky, would you please call the roll?
I certainly will. Dr. Neidavowitz,
Yes.
Dr. Howard,
Yes.
Mr. Mead,
Yes.
Mr. Otto,
Yes.
Dr. Roberts.
Yes.
Motion carried, 52.
Thank you, everyone. We appreciate it.
How do you get out?
You hit the hang up button. There's a red leave call button.